So we are going to be learning our first technique, which is working with coils. So these are examples of coils that we will be learning between today and next class. So coils are long ropes of clay that you can use to not only build sculptures, but also use them in a decorative manner. Okay? So there's a lot of different ways you can use them, but it all starts off with the same basic concept. Okay? So we're gonna start with just our long straight coil. So this is kind of our main starting off point. Okay? So for this, right, I like to start off with kind of a golf ball size amount of clay. Okay? And from there, I'm going to pinch it into kind of a lumpy rope. Okay? So I'm using my fingers, I'm just pinching it into this rope. Okay? This right here does not look very pretty. Okay? So the craftsmanship is bad. It's also way too thick. Okay? With clay, how thick the clay is very important. If it's too thick, then it can explode in the kiln. If it's too thin, it's too fragile and can break. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind. So this right now would explode in the kiln, way too thick, but it's a good starting off point because from here, I'm gonna start rolling it with my hands to get it into this nice, smooth coil rope. Okay? So for that, I'm gonna be using my entire hand, okay? And just rolling the coil like that. And I'm using my full hand so that the coil does a full rotation. If I just go back and forth with just my fingertips, that clay is not going all the way around. It's gonna end up being uneven and flattening out. So you really wanna use your full hand so you get that full rotation. Okay? So you can see just by a little bit that I did, okay, it's not as lumpy. To kind of help thin it and make the coil longer, okay, I like to use both hands, and I'll kind of start in the middle, and I'm applying a little bit of pressure, and then I'm pulling my hands outward. Okay, so you can see that the coil is starting to get thinner and longer. Okay, so roll, okay, then pull outward. Okay. Okay. If as you're rolling, you start to hear a little flop, flop, okay? That means that the coil is not perfectly round, okay? So you can kind of see a little bit with this one. It's wider and thinner, okay? So to fix that, I'm just standing it up and just patting it down to make it more squared off or cubed, okay? And then going back and rolling. So the thickest a coil can be is the thickness of your pinky. Okay? So if it's any thicker than your pinky, you run the risk of it exploding in the kiln. Okay? So that's gonna be my first kind of starting off point, is having it the thickness of my pinky. Okay? From there, you know, I kind of just broke it in half. Now I can keep rolling it to make it a little bit thinner. Okay. Like so. And then roll it even more. A little bit thinner. Okay. And kind of that progression. Okay. You do not want to overwork the clay. Okay, so if you think back to our last activity, the more you worked with the clay, the drier it got because your hands were absorbing the moisture. Same thing goes with this. Okay, so you really want to just kind of create your coil and hands off. Create your coil, hands off. Okay, so for our first little sketch, I call these sketches, even though we're not drawing. But I would like you to make 3 different coils, okay? So long coils, different thicknesses. So start with one that's the thickness of your pinky, one that's a little bit thinner, and one that's even thinner. If you would like a challenge, you can make a 4th or 5th one that's even thinner than that. So you have this nice progression, okay, of thick to thin.